Howdy everybody, and welcome back to our GameMaker Studio 2 Fundamentals. Today we are going to be talking about variables. So let's get cracking. What is a variable? Well, as far as GameMaker Studio 2 goes, anything that you assign a value to is a variable. So let's make a couple here. We want text underscore equal to, let's say, hello world. And we also want num underscore equals 1. Now this here describes the two fundamental variable types that you are going to be using in GameMaker Studio 2. We have strings and we have reals. What is a string and what is a world? Well, strings are strings. Anything that's a character and uses character sets. If you put it between quotation marks, it is a string. There is another way to make strings, and I'll show you it in just a second. But what is a reel? Well, as far as GameMaker Studio 2 is concerned, everything in between any number that you put into GameMaker Studio 2 is a reel. Anything you can think of, from 1 to 1 billion and 2 to 3.4176, whatever. Why is that? Because while in a lot of programming languages you have to declare a variable, a data type for your variables, GameMaker Studio 2 handles that in the background by simply, for every real type, any variable that is a real type, it just provides a float 64 as the data type, which basically means you can put any value between 1.7 e to the 308th, positive or negative, and it will give you up to 16 or so points of precision on that. So basically any value that you could possibly need will be covered by GameMaker Studio in the background. And based on that, there is a third variable type that is kind of a variable type, but at the same time not a variable type. So we have a Boolean, and that would be a true or a false. And as far as GameMaker Studio 2 is concerned, anything that has a value of 0.4999999 infinite and below is a false, and anything above 0.5 is a true. So when you're doing checks later on, you can actually just use 0.4999 or anything below if you really need to. But typically you'll just want to use false as a 0 and true as a 1. So, but we'll ignore that for now. There is, like I was saying, another way you can declare a string in GameMaker Studio 2. So let's do that. Text is equal to at hello world. What is this? This is a string literal, which means that GameMaker Studio will present this pretty much exactly the way that you type it on the screen here. So I'm going to put in a return right here, and if I were to display this on the screen, it would actually show hello, then return world, which would not work with a standard string, as you can see right there. It would actually give me an error if I tried to do that. And this actually comes into play with our final bit of a variable or code line here, which is the semicolon. What is the purpose of the semicolon here? The semicolon tells GameMaker that we have reached the end of a line, that everything after this is considered new code and not related to the code before it. And this is important because, like I said, showed right here, we can actually have a separate line here and have that show up as a separate line when we display it in the game. But we need the carriage return at the end here so that GameMaker Studio knows that we are done writing our code in. Otherwise, you can have instances where it ends up trying to make two pieces of code become one where you don't want it to, and then you have issues. So typically you'll want to always end your lines with a semicolon. I hope I stressed that enough. Always end with a semicolon. There is another way you can create variables in GameMaker Studio 2 called the variable definitions. And what this is an easy way to access a variable from your room. So you can double click an object and you can click on the variables tab. That will let you change variables that have been declared as under the variable definitions. But typically you won't need that unless you want to be able to change the values specifically for an object in a room. Anyways, I think that covers everything about that you really need to know about variables for the time being. So thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your programming.